Hello, everyone. We're back with another episode of LMScast. I'm Joshua Millage, and I'm joined with Christopher Badgett. And today we're talking about exponential education entrepreneurship. What in the world are we talking about, Chris?
Well, this stems from the work of two guys who are writing and speaking and creating content around exponential entrepreneurship. Their names are Stephen Kotler and Peter Diamandis. I think their most recent book is called Bold: How to Go Big, Create Wealth, and Impact the World. And they study people like, highly impactful entrepreneurs like Larry Page, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, and they also are technologists. So they're often looking at the impact of technology on business and impact, and they think a lot about the future in terms of what's coming in medicine or things like artificial intelligence and so on. So they're big tech business thinkers. And I've been listening to some of their stuff, and I've realized that what they're saying about exponential entrepreneurship is also applicable to more of our niche of education entrepreneurs who are building and creating online courses and online schools or blended learning environments. And there's a lot of lessons that can be learned by studying what these guys are up to. So
hmm
maybe we can start out by defining,
Yeah,
you
what's
know,
like a first step or first concept?
I think the very first thing is to think about the three contributing factors that create exponential entrepreneurship, which really means just creating exponential value.
hmm
So those three things that come into that mix include exponential technology. Um, I'll just run through them and then we can unpack what each of them are. Exponential technology, the flow states, and then also the crowd, the power of the crowd, whether that's crowdfunding or building online communities and so on. So
hmm
when those three things come together, that's when that exponential, meaning something that grows very fast or spherically, um,
Right,
those are like those explosive growth things, like when Facebook came out, or
right,
uh, the Amazon and the e-commerce and that kind of thing. There's some real exponential things happening there.
right. So the first concept in a nutshell is
As a technology, it involves a technology that's growing exponentially.
got it. Okay.
So a couple of examples of that, be it besides the internet, would be things like um, what the things that are happening with like processing power on a computer.
Oh, it's speaking to like Moore's law, I think it is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
So it
probably the
doubles
things
every
that are
year.
going, they're talking about artificial intelligence too,
Say that
because
again.
artificial intelligence is jumping exponentially right now, like all the time. Um, so they're looking for the opportunities in technologies that are doing that.
Absolutely. And there's certain things like Peter Diamandis, I think, is on the board of Singularity University, and the singularity, if you will, is a theoretical moment in time that Ray Kurzweil talks about and wrote a book about, where the processing power of computing outstrips what happens when it outstrips the processing power of the human brain. That's inflection point is called the singularity, and we don't really know what's going to happen after that. So but we're heading in that direction based on these exponentially growing technologies.
Right. Yeah, we're heading there really quickly. That's interesting. I like it. So how can we leverage this idea in our courses?
Well, if you take it and you're not just looking at if you bring it into the educational context,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the internet is an exponentially growing technology. There's more people coming online. Like there's a lot of people who haven't even come online yet. We take that for granted in the developed world. Um, the some areas of the world have skipped like the laptop or the desktop and going right to the phone. There's
Right.
all this like interesting things happening with technology.
Yeah.
And maybe in another episode, we can get more into the life cycle of exponential technology and talk about where learning management systems are and e-learning and educational technology in greater detail. But that opportunity is here. Like we have the tools. It's WordPress powers like 25% of the internet or whatever. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't exist 7 years ago or what. I'm not sure the exact start date, but that is a very fast growing exponential technology that we're tied into. I think the other cool things to look at outside of the technology are the what these guys would call the flow dynamics or the flow states of the leaders behind it,
Mm-hmm.
and then also the crowd. But to talk about flow first, a flow state, there's a great book called Flow. I have a hard time pronouncing the guy's name. His name is Mihal Chechnigov or something, and
Wow.
he writes about exactly what flow is and what's going on in your brain and in your psychology. But we've all experienced flow at some point in our life where we're being challenged, but we're in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
That could be in an athletic endeavor, it could be in an intellectual endeavor, it could be in an entrepreneurial or relationship endeavor. But when you match exponential technology with a flow state, you really unlock a lot of potential and power in entrepreneurship or creating value, creating valuable courses and community and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like it. So really what we're talking about today is a framework for thinking, a framework for thinking through ideas and thinking through um, really just course content. I think the interesting part of this, though, is that it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't make a living off of a niche that isn't in this too. But it's everyone is talking about, the riches are in the niches and all that sort of thing, that we forget about, oh, what are some of the things that we can do to interact with an exponential market and place ourselves to even capture, a half percentage
Fraction.
of that
Yeah.
market, is still a lot of cash if that's our goal, or impact. I mean, there's some people who are more open source minded, and that's fine too. Um, it's still a great way to look for opportunities to impact people that way. So cool. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Well, just that the last thing you said, and people, that's the third part. So it's the power of the crowd. So when you have the opportunity to do things like crowdfunding or crowdsourcing or build a community in some kind of way with your exponential technology tools, your flow state, and your ability to interact with like people at scale,
Mm-hmm.
that's the three-legged stool, if you will, of exponential education entrepreneurship right there. So if you're like, let's say you have a course idea about, I'm just pulling this out of the air, how to make your own medicinal herbs for your like a homemade first aid kit or something,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to teach other people how to heal naturally with food and herbs and plants. You could pitch that idea, create a video, put it on Kickstarter. If you get validation, you can use your exponential technology and the internet and your learning management system, and you can get in the flow state because you love it so much and you're so passionate about it. That's an example of using the power of the crowd and how that fits into the greater context.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and we will talk to you next week.